It's funny. Sometimes the absolute loudest sound in a room is the one that isn't even being made at all.
I mean, seriously, think about it. How many times have you heard, or maybe even said, I'm fine, when really there's a whole hurricane of emotions swirling inside? It's something we've all done, right? Holding it all back when what we really need is just to let it all out.
So that's what we're going to get into today. This is all about the incredible power of the words we don't say. We're going to look at silence not just as, well, emptiness, but as this active, powerful force. It's almost like its own language, with its own vocabulary of tension and respect and even rebellion. Okay, so let's dive right in. It really all begins on the inside, doesn't it? With the personal, hidden cost of all the things we choose to keep quiet. We're talking about what you could call the silent burden. It's this invisible weight that we all carry around sometimes. Every single feeling you push down, every little truth you hold back, it's like adding another stone to a backpack you can't take off. And that internal pressure, man, it shapes everything. Your mood, your choices, your well-being, often without you even knowing where it's all coming from. But here's the thing about that internal weight. It never just stays with one person. It's like pressure building up in a sealed bottle. Eventually, it has to go somewhere. It starts to leak out, and it affects, well, pretty much everything and everyone around us. And that's where you see this ripple effect. That one person's silence just radiates outward. It kicks off misunderstandings in relationships because, well, people can't read your mind. They're just left guessing. In families, it can create this feeling of distrust, like something's being hidden. And over time, all of that just eats away at the connections that hold us all together, leaving these huge gaps in our shared stories, in who we think we are as a group. All right, so if silence can have such a huge impact, if it creates these massive ripples, then it's got to be more than just nothing, right? It's a form of communication. The real question is, how do we learn to actually read it? How do we decode that silent language? And it's absolutely true. The absence of words can hit harder than an entire speech. Just think about it. That easy, comfortable silence you share with a best friend versus that super awkward, tense silence after a big argument. The context changes everything, and in both cases, the silence itself is the message. Now, what's really interesting is that the meaning of silence totally depends on where you are. It is not universal at all. For example, in a lot of Western cultures, we get uncomfortable with silence, right? It can feel awkward or like something's wrong. But in many Eastern cultures, silence can actually be a sign of respect or deep thought. It's a huge reminder that the meaning we give to silence is something we learn. It's not just a given. And let's be clear, silence isn't always just passive. It can be a weapon. Think about a great speaker pausing right before the big reveal. They're using silence to grab your attention. Or in a negotiation, just staying quiet can be a massive power move. It can be a totally deliberate, strategic tool to make a point, to gain control, or even to intimidate. So this brings us to the really long-term stuff, because the words we never say, they don't just vanish into thin air. Oh no, they echo. And sometimes those echoes can last for generations. We all know this one. It's the land of the if-onlys, that painful echo chamber of regret. If only I'd said I love you one more time. If only I'd spoken up when I saw that thing happen. Those missed chances, they stick with us, sometimes for a whole lifetime, and they build this whole story of what might have been. And when that kind of silence happens on a bigger scale, it shapes entire families, even our whole understanding of history. Think about it. Unaddressed issues in a family just get passed down from one generation to the next, creating problems for people who have no idea where it all started. Our family histories become incomplete. And on a societal level, when history books are silent about certain people or events, our whole picture of the past gets distorted. Okay, but silence isn't all about what's missing or what we regret. Not at all. There comes a point when all that quiet can actually transform into something else, when it becomes an active, deliberate, and incredibly powerful statement. A roar. This is what we call the turning point. It's that critical moment. The point when the weight of everything unsaid just becomes too much to carry. The pressure builds and builds until it just can't be contained anymore. And that's when you get a dramatic shift, a confession, a protest, a revolution. That's when the silence finally breaks. And we see this power harnessed in so many incredible ways. In protest, for example, think of a nonviolent, silent sit-in.
That collective quiet becomes this massive challenge to authority. Or look at art. It's the empty, negative space around a sculpture or in a painting that actually gives the subject its meaning and focus. And of course, in revolution. So many revolutions throughout history started after years, sometimes centuries, of quiet suffering before the people's collective silence finally broke.
So, okay, we have this powerful, really complex language all around us every single day. So the big question is, how do we get better at it? How do we become more fluent? How do we find our own voice in the middle of it all?
So how do we do it? How do we master this whole unspoken language? Well, the answer isn't just talk more. That's not it. It's about being more intentional, both with what you say and when you choose to be silent. It's really about learning to listen to what's not being said.
Okay, so there are a few steps we can take. First, we have to actively listen to silence. That means you're not just hearing the words, you're paying attention to the pauses, the hesitations, the spaces between the words. You start asking yourself, okay, what's not being said here? Next, you choose your moment. You learn to be strategic. You don't have to blurt everything out all at once. It's about mastering the art of timing, knowing when breaking your silence will have the most positive impact. And finally, and so the crucial point is this one, you have to liberate your own voice. You have to embrace speaking your own truth. There is so much healing and just pure freedom in finally giving words to that silent burden you might have been carrying.
So, I'll leave you with this. The next time you're in a room and it goes quiet, will you just hear emptiness or will you listen for the message? Because it's always speaking. The only question is, are we ready to hear it?